Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. This is episode 2 of Euro Truck Simulator. I have a driving cam set up. Hello! You can see my wheel. I don't know if it's going to add any immersion to the video series or not, but that'd be kind of neat. I've seen some other guys do this with Euro Truck Simulator. We have our first garage today, which is very important because this is kind of the basis of our entire trucking company. I don't have a truck yet, so there's nothing to go in there, but at least we've got it. And as soon as we have enough cash to buy a truck, we will buy one. And I'm not sure what kind I'm going to get yet. The last time I had a DAF as my first one because it was cheap. But all of the truck lines have a cheap truck too. And I bought Mercedes last time. Kind of when I had my hired drivers, which we'll show you in probably a few episodes when we hire drivers. I bought them all the baseline Mercedes models. And they all seem to work out fairly well. So I might go with that. But as far as getting my first truck, I'm not sure. Soon enough, we're going to get the ability to take out a loan. But for now, we just have to go with the quick job market and use other people's equipment. So, we are in Paris, France. And we'll click on there and we can see all of the different jobs. And it'll show you the kind of truck you'll be driving when you're taking those jobs as well. Let's go for one that'll take... How long will this take? 3 hours, that's about 8 minutes or so. No, that's actually a little more, about 10 minutes. 10 minutes, 10 minutes. These are all about 10 minutes, so I guess we'll just take whatever. And I like to explore as much as I can, so I try to take jobs to areas that I haven't been to yet. And right now, that's pretty much everywhere in the game except for Paris. But as the game progresses, we'll have gone to various other places. So let's take this one. We are on our way to Lille, is that how you say it? Lille, France? We'll take this job. It'll transport us right to our cargo load and everything, so we don't even have to pick it up. I am delivering toys, apparently. You can, if I could reach my keyboard, which I can't, it's like way over there. I would show you that you can hit F6 and it'll bring up the sort of information about your delivery. And it has other important information in it, like when your next rest stop needs to be and stuff like that. So there is energy in the game, like you will not have enough energy to make certain trips and you'll have to take a rest stop along the road or in town. This is not one of them. It's 3 hours and I'm fully rested, so I'm perfectly fine. I don't know what truck yard this is, so I guess we're just going to have to back up here. I guess I made the wrong turn. Let's just, we'll just put it right back where it was and make a left turn out of there instead. And squeeze it in. There we go. So we'll make a, whoop, Jesus. The transmission, automatic transmission is really screwing me up. So used to playing with the manual transmission, but it would just be far too loud for the video series because the shifter, the steering wheel is actually fairly quiet. I'm not even sure if you can hear it on the microphone. Maybe you can or can't. But the shifter is loud and it's got this leather that makes this sound. I don't know if you can hear that either, but it's very loud and I don't want it interfering with the audio stream. So for now, we're going to go with automatic transmission. In the main game that I've been playing so far, I've got 2 garages. I've got about 8 truck drivers working for me, and the simulation level in this game is one thing. Like the driving around and picking up cargo and stuff like that is all pretty cool. But it becomes even cooler to sort of have your own trucking company and have your own employees and everything. Very, very neat. I feel some of my settings are still not quite right, so I might have to go off camera and fix those, but yeah, perhaps I'll save those for the next episode. Now, the one thing that is really interesting, and I know in North America, you can turn right on a red light. Apparently in Europe, you can't do that for some intersections. I've been doing it, and it's hit and miss whether I get a red light ticket when I turn right on a red light. What the hell is that? Are you not allowed to turn right on red lights in Europe? Does anybody know the answer to that? Because I'd be very curious. You'll come up to a red light and it'll have, okay, so here's one example. It's got a yield sign on it. And these ones, I think every time I've gone through one of these on a red light, like stopped and turned right at the red light, I will get a red light ticket. But if it has the sign that's a diamond with an orange smaller diamond in it, then I don't get a red light ticket. I don't know. I mean, I've never seen a red light aside from it saying no turn on red light that you can't turn on. Perhaps one of those signs, however, means something to Europeans. It certainly doesn't mean anything to me. Anyway, I'm going to set my cruise control so I don't have to keep my foot on the gas pedal. It's much more comfortable. I miss being able to play games with my legs crossed in the chair. I don't know, it's a bad habit because it hurts my knees. I'm not exactly a spring chicken anymore, but when you play this game, you have to have your feet on the floor all the time, and it's kind of bothersome. You don't have to signal in this game, but I like, just for immersion's sake, to signal, because it makes it feel more realistic. Take a nice wide turn, and we're fine. The signal lights turn off automatically. It's really cool. I thought, they can detect kind of the position of the wheel, and it shuts it off just like in a real car. Some of these roads get a little tight for the truck to go through. There's one off-ramp, I believe it is, in the UK, when you get up to the UK maps, that is so tight. I don't think that I've ever gone without rubbing the trailer on the side of it. So tight to get through. Of course, driving in the UK in this game is a pain in the ass in and of itself because you're always on the left side of the road. When I first drove in the UK in this game, I got so many wrong way tickets, and I got in a nasty accident the very first time. Just completely wrecked my cargo. But I've gotten somewhat used to it now. I also turned down the force feedback on the wheel. If you don't know what force feedback is, it's a mechanism that some of the higher tier wheels have, well, all of the higher tier wheels have, that makes the steering feel more realistic. You can feel the wheels on the road because there's motors inside of the wheel itself that pull the wheel back in the opposite direction so that you feel like your tires are on the road. When I play this game off camera, I like to have the force feedback fairly high so that I can feel what's going on. On camera, I've had to turn it down quite a bit because when the motors activate in the wheel, it vibrates the desk, and it would make a ruckus on the audio recording. I would have thought, now maybe I've got some audiophile guys out there that can tell me, but I would have thought that having a shock mount, I have an elastic shock mount on this microphone, and I would have thought that despite the arm being mounted to the desk, the shock mount would have taken the majority of the vibration out of the audio track, and apparently that didn't happen. Anyway, I don't know. What is our discussion topic for the day? Well, I've been watching a documentary that apparently is all the rage right now, and it's a Netflix original called Making a Murderer. I won't spoil this for you, hopefully. I'll give you the very initial gist of what the story is. It's about a man who lives in Wisconsin, and he's a bit of a sort of Midwest hillbilly, I guess is the way you could describe him. His family is obviously quite poor. They own a auto salvage yard, and they make their money off of auto salvage. And their property looks, the way that you would expect an auto salvage to look. They all live in trailers, and for all intents and purposes, very poor people. And anyway, so in 1985, this man, Steve Avery is his name, if I hadn't mentioned that. I gotta resume my cruise control here. In 1985, a woman was sexually assaulted on a beach in the county. Willamette County, I believe it was, or I can never pronounce the other one, Wakawatic or something. I don't know. Doesn't matter. And the police went after Steve Avery and did some really shady things in sort of pinning this sexual assault on Steve. And it turned out that despite sort of a major lack of evidence in the case, Steve was convicted of sexual assault. and he spent 18 years of his life in prison. Years later, when DNA evidence kind of came into its own, I believe he was released in 2003, the DNA evidence in the case was re-examined, and it turned out, after all, that he wasn't the rapist. In fact, it was another guy that was very well known to the police. He had been under police surveillance and had had a history of violence toward women, especially. And George Allen, I think his name was. And so Steve Avery was exonerated of his crime after 18 years. And he decided, as he rightfully should have, to sue the county and the prosecutor and the police. And he had a civil trial against them, claiming $36 million in damages. I believe he said $1 million per year of his life that they took, and then another $1 million a year in punitive damages. Punitive damages being those that are meant to penalize, to scold abhorrent behavior. And so he was looking for $36 million and went through sort of a civil discovery. We call it a discovery in Canada, but it's a deposition there where he was interviewing the witnesses to see what they would have known and would say at trial. And during this process was charged with a murder of a lady, Teresa Holbach, who was a photographer for Auto Trader magazine. So he was charged with a murder, and the documentary goes on to examine the case that the police has against him, and it is intriguing, to say the least. You probably don't know this, but in my real life, my full-time job is actually that of a lawyer. I'm not a criminal lawyer or a civil lawyer. I'm a business lawyer, so I deal with business transactions, purchases and sales, and specialize in intellectual property. So I don't have a whole lot of first-hand in litigation, but as a lawyer, I found this documentary to be very, very eye-opening as to what a corrupt justice system can look like. In this documentary, there are prosecutors who skirt the line of ethics and in my opinion, step well over. The judges in this case didn't believe so. They even said that the prosecutor who prosecuted the sexual assault charge in 85 was not liable of malicious conduct or malicious prosecution. And that was a real shocker to me when it came out that the evidence that they had pointed to a different person. They even received a phone call from another jurisdiction saying that a guy copped the sexual assault and they've got the wrong guy in jail. Didn't name the person, but he said it was in that county. So, who else could it have been? But not only the prosecutor, but also the one of the characters, and I promise I won't spoil this, but one of the characters' defense lawyers is, I would say, egregiously in breach of lawyer-client ethical standards. Egregiously. Enough to the point where he should be disbarred permanently for life, in my opinion. And I don't know. I checked, actually, today. I looked on the state of Wisconsin bar's website to see if this person had been disbarred, and I could not find a disciplinary proceeding against him, which was very surprising, although I did hear some rumors through the grapevine of Reddit that he did get suspended. Now, in my honest opinion, I don't even think it's a minor case of he should have been suspended temporarily. The guy should have been absolutely disbarred. I won't tell you what he did. Maybe in future episodes, once you've had a chance to go watch it, I'll talk about the specifics of the case. But he should have been disbarred. A major breach of ethics. The other thing, though, about the documentary is you get to see some lawyers in there that, in my opinion, are extremely skilled litigators and are very, very high on ethical standards. And you wouldn't expect that from criminal defense lawyers, would you? I think a lot of people think that criminal defense lawyers are kind of scumbags. And it's generally not true. I mean, you've got your lawyers out there that are sort of skirting the line of ethics, but are still in line. These guys were shining examples, in my opinion, of what a advocate can be to a person. Dean Strang and I want to say Michael, but that doesn't sound right, Buting. Jerry Buting, actually, I think is what his name was. These guys, very, very impressive. I mean, when they were going through cross-examination, they of the prosecutors, or the state, we call it the Crown in Canada, but it's a state in the United States. The state's witnesses, extremely well-formed lines of questioning. They had a very, very clear picture of the evidence that was available. I just rubbed that barrier, didn't I? Get going. I don't think it did any damage, though. Extremely well-formulated timeline in their head and what evidence was available to them, and it was extremely smooth from what the documentary showed. They, compared to the prosecutor, the prosecutor was outmatched by a million miles. And they did an incredible job, from what I saw, in defending Steve Avery's right to due process. Unfortunately, the judicial system in Wisconsin appears to be a little bit, how should I say it, prejudice toward this particular individual, if not just in general toward offenders or the accused. And they made some calls that I absolutely could not agree with in that case. Again, I'd have to spoil the documentary for you to talk about it, so I'm not going to. But I highly recommend that you go and watch this documentary, because it is like, you know, when you're reading a book and you say to yourself, it's like 3 o'clock in the morning, and you say, oh, one more chapter, I'll just stay up and read it. This is a documentary where you're going to be saying to yourself, just one more episode. And next thing you know, it's 4 o'clock in the morning and you've got to work at 8. So highly, highly recommend it. Making a Murderer is what it's called. There is a lot of buzz right now in the news and on Reddit and various discussion forums about it. Stay away from those if you don't want to spoil it for yourself, but there's 11 episodes. It's like 11 hours and some long. Get going on it. Get through them, because people are going to be talking about this for quite some time. And interestingly enough, the documentary paints a picture that it wants to paint of the case, which I have to say was quite biased in favor of the defendant in this case. And then you can get further information on the internet about what the details are that they left out of the documentary, and some of them are surprising. I found, a few details today when I was looking through to say, maybe they should have included that in the documentary, because doesn't quite paint the same picture that they tried to make out. But a documentarian is out there to give you a certain take on reality. It's not meant to be a news article where they have to present, or at least try to present, some form of a balanced view of the facts. The documentarian was trying to give an example of what corruption looks like, and I think they succeeded very, very well at that. So anyway, Making a Murderer, go watch it on Netflix. We just discovered Lil, and we are approaching our destination of drop-off here. Smooth ride, except for that minor little rub on the off-ramp railing. But it didn't do any damage to the trailer as far as I'm aware, so I think we'll be okay. It's kind of relaxing now driving an automatic after I've had the opportunity. I just shoulder checked in real life to make that lane change. I was looking the other day at the Oculus Rift, and this game works with Oculus Rift, and they're taking pre-orders coming up very, very shortly here. I'm so tempted, because it would be fantastic to play this game on an Oculus. Just the way that it would feel to be able to actually shoulder check your turns and look around your cabin. Oh, that would be very, very impressive. You remember back in the day when VR first started coming out, and it was just kind of like made you motion sick, and or the Game Boy VR. That one was an interesting one. I think they've got it right this time, though. I think they're gonna get it right with the Oculus. If not the Vive, I think I've seen the Vive is kind of another competitor that. Oh, I oversteered this. Darn it! I thought I was being clever in understeering it because I usually overshoot, and there I went and undershot. Did that make any sense? I overshot the turn there. I'm gonna do it again here apparently. Okay, here we go. We're looking way better lined up this time. Yeah, back this way. Yeah, and I overshot again. It's pretty typical that I overshoot these. I really have to try to get the spatial. Well, look at this. They're gonna let me park it like that apparently. Good enough for Euro Truck Simulator, good enough for me. So we made our delivery successfully, and I don't think we got any damage. We'll find out here in just a second. No, we got an excellent rating, so we're not going to get damage. We made 3741, and we are now level 2, so we can level up. Let's go see what we can get. Now, I think the first and best one to do is long distance, because this gives you access to more places, and gives you a bonus and lets you drive a little further. So we're going to go with that one. It'll also make our episodes appropriate length, likely. May end up having to cut some stuff out, but who knows. I'm going to apply that, and I'm going to call it a day, guys. So thanks very much for watching. Until the next episode. Bye-bye.